Dejiko-sama 1 through 16. So I have stumbled upon something pretty interesting. I found this tape here. Someone was selling it on Mercari, the US website, and it caught my eye because it was an unlabeled purple VHS tape, which you probably can't really tell in this lighting. But this is a fan sub tape for Gi Charat. It seems to be the full thing. If we slide it out of the case here, on the top right here, it says Kodocha. It's a purple tape. Based on things that I had looked online, there was the group Kodocha who fan subbed Kodomo no Omocha back in the early days of VHS fan subbing. And they also did something very similar with this white label going across a T120 tape with this specific italicized font, purple tapes, gold lettering right there. So I'm going to pop this in and take a look, because I'm interested to see what is on this tape. However, before we begin, I want to take a quick look at something here. So this is the AniDB page for Gi Charat, and if we scroll down a little bit, we will find ourselves at the spot where it lists the fan subgroups. It lists a number of different groups, and over here it's like the language and then the source. The thing I was focusing on was the source, because this indicates what the fan sub was originally released on. And at the bottom there are only two, well technically one, because I'll note on that in a second, but there was only one fan sub group who had, at least according to AniDB's potentially incorrect database, there was only one group who fan subbed this in English on VHS back in the day. And that was this one right here. I'll go show you who this was in a second, but this is FSFA-SFS, and they did the entire 16 episode original run of Gi Charat on VHS. The other group right here, CF, only did the specials, so that doesn't really count for the purposes of this video. Later on, there were a number of other groups who released fan subs, or just re-releases using other fan subs or the official R1 retail subs once Dejiko Charat was localized on a various number of different sources, R1, R2 DVDs and whatnot. There's actually one group here that I have fan subs for on my computer, but they used the R2 DVD, and I'll show you right here. This is a release from Baka BT, and, well, it's delivered from Baka BT, but it's a collection of fan sub releases from various groups right here, just kind of collecting it for archiving purposes. I just wanted to point it out because there was a group right here called Neo Coalition who did fan subs for this, but they used R2 DVD source as opposed to a VHS source. And that would be over here, and that would line up with what we got right here, where this is Neo Coalition, and they only did episodes 1 through 7. But at least in terms of VHS, there's only one group here listed who did it. There is a potential that one of these right here that says unknown is the group that fan subbed this, but I just wanted to point out that the tape that I have right here that says Kodocha, it's not going to focus obviously because it's dark. The lighting's a little weird. So I was like, you know what, I'm just going to kind of look into things a little bit more. And I found the group Kodocha Anime, who, based on what the name would suggest, they were founded for the sole purpose of fan subbing Kodomo no Omocha back in the day, releasing it on VHS. Apparently they didn't release the entire series, they only did 36 episodes. They also did another show called Mainichi ga Nichiyobi. And then when I was looking on here, I saw that, this is kind of interesting, they participated in like a collaboration, because oftentimes fan subgroups would collaborate with other groups, either just because like they were short-staffed, or like one group was providing the raws and the other ones were doing the translation, or it was like a joint translation effort. Number of different things. So they collaborated with Senshi fan subs. If I click on that right here, Kodocha Anime and Senshi fan subs here, it just lists Kodomo no Omocha again. So I guess to a certain extent, they collaborated with Senshi Fansubs to release Kodocha, the anime. But investigating even further, I gotta find my mouse. I found here Senshi Fansubs, which is an early fansub group that I'm kind of familiar with myself. And on their releases, they have Dejiko-sama right there. The source, VHS. Complete, 16 episodes. But it seems like Senshi Fansubs released a fansub of Dejiko-sama, and it's possible that they were working closely with Kodocha and they just kind of released them using their tapes, or Kodocha released them with their tapes. Or this is from a fan who kind of like had extra tapes, and they rewrote something over the other one or whatever. But there's only one way to find that out. But the last thing I do want to indicate is that Senshi Fansubs do have a website hosted on like WordPress, and here they have an entry for Dejiko-sama, and then you can download episodes right there. So I'm going to download the first episode of their fansub, and then I'm going to pop the tape in and see if it lines up with what I got. Because I guess the ultimate mystery is what I'm trying to find out here is where did this tape come from, and is it actually a Dejiko-sama fansub tape? Well, there's the Dejiko-sama and Dejiko that we all know and love. However, is this the files that we were looking for, or the ones that we thought it was? Let's find out. Alrighty, I'm back at my computer. I had downloaded the first episode of the Dejiko-sama anime from the Senshi Fansub website where they archived previous fansubs. Let's take a quick look to see if this is mirroring what we see on the tape behind us right now. I don't think I need to watch anymore. I already saw something interesting. The first thing that jumped out at me was this watermark right here where it says presented by Fansub Files Anime. Back in the day, it was very common for fansub groups to watermark their subtitles, be it putting the names of the people who, or like the staff members who had worked on the show, or putting the name of their group somewhere within the opening. Sometimes they would be cheeky and they would put their names alongside the staff credits, or like on the title, like the title drop or whatever, where it would say like Dejiko-sama, they would be like Senshi Fansubs presents Dejiko-sama or something along those lines. It was pretty common just because you never know who was gonna try to claim your work as theirs. It wasn't impossible to get around that, but it was just one of the ways groups mitigated stuff like that. And it just started to rain, so hopefully that doesn't pick up too much. That was the first thing. Other groups, sometimes they would watermark, or they would do stuff like during the bumpers of the show, like around the 50% mark, where they would be like, this is a free fansub, not for sale or for rent. Whereas the VHS tape that I have behind me just said not for sale or for rent, which is kind of common, but it's not the same watermark that we see right here. So I don't know if the subtitles are exactly the same. And then right below right here, another thing that I noticed was the styling right here, where it has the English lyrics in yellow, and then it has the Japanese romaji in white. Back, if we look at the VHS tape and we play it, it has the romaji at the very top, and at the bottom it has the English lyrics. So it's not exactly the same. It's possible the translation is the same, but I don't think these are the same files, which is interesting. Just when I was starting to doubt it, I returned back and I wanted to run just a little bit more of the episode and kind of compare the actual translation. But now that I'm looking at it, both the font and the way they've translated certain lines seem to match up with what I was looking at earlier on the tape. Just a specific way that they do the white text right here, and then it would be like the space gemma. I think the line that I wanted to look at the most was where she calls herself Dejiko-sama. Dejiko-sama, you're so great, Nyo. That's very distinctly localized. Let's just double check and look at the tape one more time. Yep, it's exactly the same. Even though the opening is different, the translation from the tape is exactly the same. And just the way that they've translated certain lines, like this one right here is very distinct. Dejiko-sama, you're so great, Nyo. In both the way that they keep the honorifics and Dejiko's iconic speech by appending Nyo to almost everything. There's just one more thing I wanted to look at. This right here was from the aforementioned Nyo Coalition, who released the Gi Charat fansub a little bit later via AVI files, likely distributed via IRC channels. The translation is slightly different just in terms of how they space the lines. Let me go back a little bit and show you the same line. On the VHS tape, they had both Dejiko-sama, you're so... It will be great. It will be wonderful, Nyo. They put them on the same line, and I think they translated it slightly differently. So, this Nyo Coalition one is not what I have on the tape. So, Parsi, what does it all mean, Nyo? Well, I'll tell you what I think. Returning back to Senshi Fansub's website, I was just looking at the files that they had released right here, and the fact that it doesn't necessarily match up with what I have on tape right now is kind of interesting. However, the translation is exactly the same, and the only key difference is the karaoke. And then also the tape that it was released on was by Korocha. That gives me, I don't know, like various different theories of what could have happened. I don't exactly know what it was. If someone does happen to know who stumbled upon this video in the future, do let me know, since I am at least a little curious. But it could be one of a couple things, I guess. The first is that the group who actually did the subtitling for the show, the actual translation proper, was Senshi Fansubs, and the original release, Fansub Files Anime and Senshi, was the files that I have currently on my computer that I showed you earlier, where it said Fansub Files Anime as a watermark once you start the opening. One thing I was thinking of as I was mentioning that, is it's possible that Korocha and Senshi later released Gi Charat on VHS tape, because it's not like they only released these once. They were continuously making releases, or they had collaborated after the fact, once they were doing Korocha a little bit later, and they re-released or made new tapes for Gi Charat using Korocha's tape, and then maybe a slightly different karaoke, just to make it look slightly more appealing, because I think the karaoke that appears in the tape that I have looks a little bit nicer than the ones on the file, which kind of just look like par for the course things that you might see on a R1 DVD back in the day. it could have been, I don't know, different other things. I still think Senshi was the people who originally did the translation, but you never know. But in any case, this is what appears to be a legitimate fan sub tape for Dejiko-sama, released back in probably the early 2000s. And I just think it's really cool to have. It's a piece of history for sure, and I'm glad to have this tape in my collection now. I just wanted to showcase something kind of interesting I found, kind of do a deep dive, talk about what I was thinking about while I was kind of like working through the process of figuring out who the original fan subbers were for this tape. Not necessarily like super cohesive. Hopefully, like it was actually understandable, but that's just something cool I picked up pretty recently, and I wanted to show it off. Anyways, that's all for today, nyo. Thank you for watching, nyo. Bye bye, nyo.